This is Studio 809.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I am your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to my social media, my newspaper columns, my other podcast, and also you can drop me a line there by signing up for my newsletter or sending me an email if you have something you'd like to hear or a guest you'd like to have featured on the podcast. Today I'm doing something a little different. We're out in the field recording a podcast on the trail with Medicine Wheel Trail Advocates and their executive director, Cory Sutela, and some volunteers there as they work on a new trail being built up in the north part of the county. So with that, we'll take you over to the podcast. So I'm out here today with Cory Sutela, who is the executive director of Medicine Wheel Trail Advocates. Cory, first, before we go on with what you're doing out here today, tell us about Medicine Wheel.
Yeah, Medicine Wheel is a mostly mountain bike trail advocacy organization. We do trail design and construction and maintenance, as well as advocate for public access and for more trails for everyone to enjoy.
Great. You guys have been around for how many years?
Yeah, there's some debate about that. The formation that we were able to document formally is in 1991. That was at the advent of the mountain biking movement. And our founding members, first of all, recognized the healing power of trails and the connection that they could gain by being out on the trails, and felt a need to take care of those trails. The message was trails are an antidote to today's increasingly technological world, and we want to make sure that we can preserve that for future generations. And we really think that's more true now even than it was at that time. So we try to follow that kind of mindset, find ways to connect people in a meaningful way to trails. So
for about 30 some odd years, you've been working with various agencies, city, county, federal, whomever, to get trails done, projects done?
Yeah, pretty much anyone in the Pikes Peak region. We build trails all over the region. More recently, we've started to explore some other kind of partnerships like semi-private education districts and schools. Today we're on a Metro District property. So trying to expand the number of partners, but yeah, as you say, we work with City of Colorado Springs is our biggest partner, also the U.S. Forest Service, and then El Paso County, Town of Monument, Fountain, Manitou Springs, Colorado Springs Utilities. We have connections with the BLM. There's not a whole lot of BLM opportunities in our region, but we see it as our role to try to maintain contact with all of the land managers.
Give some people who maybe listen to this, or maybe hikers or cyclists, what trails they may have been on that you've had a significant part of.
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I'll say, they might want to visit, we've got a projects interactive map on our website. That's medwheel.org. You can click on projects, and then you can click in and see. I mean, they really are all over the region. Some of the better known ones are the Lake Moraine Trail, which connects Bar Trail with the top of Jones Park and North Cheyenne Canyon.
I was talking to somebody about that trail the other day, having done that the day you guys opened it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, great.
Hiked it. Not even rode it, hiked it.
Yeah, it's really been popular with cyclists, equestrians, hikers, trail runners. It's part of what they call the Pikes Peak Plummet. A lot of people connect up from Elk Park and then down into North Cheyenne Canyon and Stratton. Yep. So Lake Moraine is one of our real flagship trails. Also, the Codell Trail in Red Rock Canyon is a favorite. That's probably the most challenging trail in Red Rock Canyon. That one was designed and constructed, mostly hand-constructed. Upper Codell was all hand-constructed by Medwheel.
That's along that little spine up there on the east side of the park.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Right, and it's fairly steep exposure and some technically challenging riding features. Sure. So, really beloved by more advanced mountain bikers. We were really involved with the chutes and the North Cheyenne Canyon Master Plan to have some single-direction trails in that property. Likewise in Ute Valley and in Austin Bluffs. We were really involved with the design of trails, in design and construction of trails in those properties. We've worked in Garden of the Gods. We've worked in Cheyenne Mountain State Park, Rampart Reservoir, out near Blue Stem Prairie. Across the street from Blue Stem Prairie is Fountain Valley School, where we recently constructed a high school mountain bike race course. Mm-hmm. And boy, I'm probably forgetting dozens of them.
Oh, that's a good sizable list. Just what you could, off the top of your head. So that's a pretty good sizable list there. So we're out here today near Monument in El Paso County. We're kind of in the unincorporated part of of the county, and you're working on a trail that's, I guess the best way to put it is, skirts around a new development that's going up. So you want to give us like a real brief idea what this project is you're working on?
Yeah, this location is called Forest Lakes. It's Forest Lakes filing number 7. It's constructed by Classic Communities. It is basically, if you were to take Baptist Road and go straight west towards Mount Herman, this new development exists right on the south side of that property and very close to the fire center up by Mount Herman.
They're basically right over the hill from us, I imagine.
Yeah, you can't quite see it, but we're very close. You can easily ride your bike there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we were actually approached by one of our members. His name is Brad, and he said, hey, this was a few years ago, he said that, this development is going in, and it looks like there's a really great opportunity with some of the property left over after the platting is done to put in some really great trails and some beautiful terrain. And we came out and took a look, and we really agreed. It's like, the property borders the national forest, and it's fantastic and inspiring terrain. So we got in touch with the builder and said, we're interested in doing this. And they said, great, this would be a great amenity. They see the value in having trails next to houses. And so when we came out here, there was a couple of houses, but not very many. Now there's close to 500 houses out here. And interestingly, one of our members told us they came out on a walk early days of scouting, and have since decided to move into this neighborhood and is, out working with us today on the trail. So cool. It really is one of those kind of trails that is provides connection for people. And
for people's perspective, when you would hike in the Mount Herman area or the trails that go back by the fire center and head up towards Mount Herman, you couldn't get south out of there. You were pretty much, you kind of were stuck there. You couldn't come south out of there. So is this trail kind of come south out of there and kind of connect more to the south from the Mount Herman area? Is that a good way to describe it? For people who may know that Mount Herman area but trying to envision where this is.
Yeah, probably people who are familiar with the area, they know, there's the Mount Herman Road, and going south from the Mount Herman Road in the past has been a challenge, at least by trail. And also in this whole area, for a really long time, there's been a lot of off-trail travel and non-system trail use, and that is kind of a problem for the Forest Service now, as they're, with the advent of Strava and all these heat maps, they can really see where people are traveling and making their own trails that aren't part of the system, and that causes a problem for especially federal land managers. Sure. What this trail, so the trail we've built already on the Forest Lake filing number 7, it's now in the Metro District. This is a meaningful trail in its own right. It's a fun mountain biking trail. It's about just over a mile that sort of skirts around the housing development, but significantly it also connects into a county trail that runs along Baptist Road and all the way back to the Santa Fe Trail. So when we finally make our connection up into Trail 715, which is a system trail in the National Forest, people will be able to literally ride the Front Range Trail, hang a left at Baptist Road, and ride trail all the way up, get on our Forest Lakes Trail, and then ride right up into the National Forest on Trail 715.
All the way up to Rampart Range Road if they wanted to.
And keep on going.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, good. We're going to walk around a little bit. We're going to take a look at some other work you're doing here. We'll come right back onto the podcast.
Sounds great.
So, Cory, you just took me on a little quick tour of a few hundred feet of trail over here. Give us an idea on how big this entire project that you're working on in conjunction with the Metro District and the county. How big is this trail that you're building going to be?
Yeah, so far we've got just over under a mile and a half of trail on Metro District property. There's part of it that is kind of intertwined with a county trail, but it is all on the Metro District property. So the county trail was a requirement for the builder that there would be a trail that meets the county spec. So there's part of it where we've got our trail right next to a county trail on Metro District property. The Metro District has approved for us to continue construction, and we expect we'll have approaching 2 miles on the Metro District in total of single track from one end to the other. The exciting new thing that we're working on, the vision is that it will result in another 1.5 miles of good single track that will connect into the U.S. Forest Service Trail 715. And right now we are in process with the natural resource evaluation that's required to build trail on the national forest. So I know you know, and probably most of your listeners know, to build trail on federal lands requires the NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act. It needs to be an assessment to check for cultural resources and natural resources. In this area in particular, we're concerned about a federally listed species. It's listed as threatened. It's the Preble's field jumping mouse. So we know that there is mouse habitat just south of here. And in fact, our partners at Palmer Land Conservancy hold a conservation easement that protects the mouse in South Beaver Creek. Our trail is focused on the ridge up above North Beaver Creek to connect into Trail 715. So we're talking today in 2025. Our hope is that we will get the NEPA process completed hopefully later this year, and we can start construction in 2026 to connect up to Trail 715. Regardless of that process, we are going to continue on the Metro District and keep building this Forest Lakes Trail down to the bridge on Mesa Top Road.
Cool. So we're here in October 2025. When did you actually start this project?
I think it was late 2022 when we first started it, and really from a twinkle in someone's eye to actually breaking ground was the fastest that I've ever been involved with a trail development project, and that's really because of the strong cooperation from Classic Communities. You know, we went on a walk with them, they saw the value of having a trail, and they had the authority to give us the approval, and so we started laying out trails. So it was, something like 6 months after we first thought of it, we were laying out trail and corridor clearing shortly after.
I remember when I was on the County Parks Advisory Board, when this whole development was being planned, the requirement that this county had given them that we approved to build trails in here. And at that time, Classic was very much in favor of putting in trails and recreation and recognize that. So to me, it's not a surprise that they're working really closely with you and now the Metro District to get this project going and to build more recreational opportunities up here.
I think Classic got it right away. They, a lot of people live in this area because they want to be close to these kind of trail opportunities. So Classic understood immediately, and also really want to recognize El Paso County for having those kinds of requirements. Nearly every time there is a new development in the county, there is a requirement, and you were on the County Parks Board, and I was at County Parks Board this week, and the same discussions are happening. Right. The county is really good at making sure that there is public trail access whenever new development goes in. So kudos to the county for that, and kudos to Classic for seeing the vision so quickly.
Cool. Well, let's go take a look at some more trail and maybe talk to some of the people working out here today. How many people do you have on your crew out here today?
We've got about a dozen today, so we're focused on, with that size of crew, we're able to do some more technical rock work. So we're doing some rock, embedding some rocks into the tread, making sure that the trail stays challenging and interesting. It is a multi-use trail, and we get a lot of neighborhood dog walkers here, but we also, we're mountain bikers at heart, and we want to make sure that there's a fun mountain biking challenge anytime we're building a new trail. So we've really had a lot of authority to do that, and I'll show you some of the interesting features we've been able to put in as we get higher up on the trail.
And I guess we should talk about that real quickly. You're a mountain biking group, you're advocate for mountain bikers, but when you're building trails, and you talked a little bit about some of the one-way trails, the chutes, and there's a one-way trail in Ute Valley Park. There's a one-way trail in North Cheyenne Canyon Park. They just built above the chutes. Mm-hmm. There's that new trail up there. But when you build parts, even though you're building them for your mountain bikers, you are also building with the intention that they're going to be multi-use, that hikers are going to be welcome on them, that trail runners are going to be welcome on them, with the exception of those one-way trails that are pretty much just for bikes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. As you're probably aware, in 2014, the City of Colorado Springs Parks System Master Plan included the concept that we wanted more opportunities for emerging gravity-oriented sports like downhill mountain biking. True downhill mountain biking is not really compatible with hiking. No hiker wants to get run over by a fast-traveling mountain biker, and no mountain biker wants to run over a hiker. So there are certainly many places where it's more appropriate to have two separate trails, one for downhill only mountain biking and one for other uses like hiking and equestrian or uphill travel. We believe in both. I mean, there's a lot of terrain, and certainly here in Forest Lakes, this is the kind of terrain where it's very possible to build trail with appropriate sight lines so that there isn't a conflict, and that ultimately means more trail for everyone. If we can build trails that are easy and safe to share, it's more trail for everyone.
The Chutes Trail you mentioned, I'd actually hiked down that trail, which was a terrible hiking experience going down that trail, because at the time they didn't have that parallel trail that is now for hikers only.
Right.
And it was kind of a dangerous thing. The mountain bikers were bombing down there because it was an exciting trail for them, but it was the only hiking trail down there. So the advent of splitting that off and creating a really nice hiking trail kind of parallel to it, separating it off and say the cyclists get that one, the hikers get this one, makes a better experience for everybody when you can do that. And when you can't, you build a trail that's compatible for everybody.
Yeah, I think, the obvious downside of having separated use trails, it just means more trails and more impact on the resource. So that's something that you have to consider.
Sure.
But the Chutes is a prime example. I mean, I was, as a mountain biker, was riding up and got hit by a downhill someone traveling downhill. I can't say they were riding irresponsibly, but they weren't riding in a way that they could, avoid someone coming up. And so, on a shared multi-direction shared trail, it is your responsibility as a mountain biker to ride in control and not have those collisions. So that was a bad situation. And ultimately what it means is if you have multi-use trails like that, like they just really cannot meet that demand for a true downhill experience. Right. So that's why since 2014, every time there's been a city master plan, we've advocated for, hey, let's make sure that we do, if the terrain is appropriate for it, let's make sure that we do have a separated use downhill only trail. So that's why there's actually two, Rattle Rocks and Almond Butter in Ute Valley. We see that in Austin Bluffs and in North Cheyenne Canyon. Didn't happen in the Fishers Canyon, but certainly in the Blodgett Open Space Master Plan, that concept is included there. Right. And, we're happy to see that the needs of mountain bikers or the desires of mountain bikers are being considered. We understand that we can't turn the whole county into one big downhill mountain bike park. And I guess it's a good time to mention, the upcoming Pikeview Quarry that we imagine will be a world-class mountain biking park. And that's going to, hopefully will meet a lot of the need for some of those more extreme downhill uses, because that use is just growing. There's more people wanting to do it, more people moving and visiting Colorado. So we have to find a place for that to happen safely. And, in the places where we can, we also like to share trails and make sure, we build trails in a way that makes it easy for people to be friendly to each other and not get into conflict.
And for somebody like me who's primarily a hiker, I don't get out on a bike very often. My thing is hiking. Obviously, I'm Hiking Bob. I appreciate, that when the trails can accommodate everybody safely, they're there. But I also appreciate you guys want a different experience. And when I say you guys, cyclists want a different experience. And they want those exciting experiences. Kind of like I like those knife edge hikes, where I'm on some knife edge someplace. Definitely not compatible with bikes, but I like them as a hiker.
Sure.
So when you can build, obviously you're not going to build 20 miles of two trails next to each other, but when you can build something that gives a little more challenge, excitement to the cyclist, as that we can build those. And I like it when I can have a trail that's just for hikers, and it might be a little challenging and might be a little scrambling and stuff like that. Everybody kind of gets what they want out of this as much as possible. You can't build everything, like I said, you can't build everything twice. It just doesn't make sense. It's damage to the resource, and it's expensive as all get out. But I think it's great that when we can build these separate trails to give people a different experience, we do it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great new. It's a concept that's more and more accepted and clearly meets the desires of our recreational uses. And I just want to say, I'm also a hiker, and I appreciate those experiences too. Sure. And most mountain bikers are. So I think everybody kind of gets that, and so it's finding that balance. When is it appropriate to share trails, and when is it appropriate to have separated uses?
So there's been kind of a shift. Early on, when I came out here 30 some odd years ago, it was shared use trails. Let's make these trails compatible for everybody. Let's make them big and wide, and we put hikers on them, cyclists on them, horses on them, do all that kind of stuff. Still kind of the thing, but now I'm seeing a shift back towards, as you pointed out, we've been talking about, let's kind of separate some of these trails and make them. So we kind of went to, let's pull the trails, all the users together, and now we're kind of going to, when we can, let's pull them apart. Kind of a different philosophy. Is that because maybe mountain biking has gotten more popular and people recognize the increased travel and traffic that's out there?
I think that's exactly it. So in the late 80s and early 90s, there weren't any mountain bikers or mountain bike trails or uses, and the formation of Medicine Wheel was highly based on what our founders saw happening up in Boulder, where there was a city council that was really dominated by hikers, and they made a move to ban mountain bikes from a lot of the trails, and to this day that remains a challenge in Boulder. Medicine Wheel formed, there was a master planning process around that time in Garden of the Gods, and mountain bikers were excluded from a lot of Garden of the Gods, and I would say there's some trails in Garden of the Gods where it actually would make sense to have shared uses, but it's not allowed by the master plan. That's when Medicine Wheel got formed and started engaging with land managers, started being a voice on the other end of the phone to say, you're having a concern about mountain bike uses? Yeah, we'll talk to the mountain bikers and we'll try to address that. So in the late 80s, early 90s, we were fighting for a seat at the table and begging to be allowed on trails that didn't conceive of, they were, I guess, motorized or non-motorized, but there was a movement to try to exclude mountain bikes. And, we tried to be a positive part of the trail community so that we had the ability to share trails. As mountain biking has just exploded in popularity, now the use is so prevalent that, and the machines have gotten a lot more capable that make it really a lot of fun to fly through the air and go at high speeds. And it's maybe hard to believe it from the perspective of a hiker, but that's actually safe to do that. You can do that in a comfortable way, except if you might run over a hiker. So I think the sport has changed. The popularity of it has really increased.
And that's where we started splitting out the trails.
And that's where we start to see the need for separated uses.
Cool. Oh, that makes complete sense. And, of course, mountain bikers pay taxes just like hikers do, so you have somewhat of a right to be able to use trails as much as possible in our public lands.
Yeah, there's a philosophic argument in there that I agree with. I think the other thing is mountain bikers historically have been, at least since I've lived here for over 20 years, we're the ones that are out looking for new trails and are putting in the volunteer work to create and to maintain those trails. I think when I'm a hiker, I don't really need the trail to be in a certain condition. As a mountain biker, to enjoy the trail, there is a need for maintenance and for it to be in a certain condition, and that really has been part of the ethics of mountain biking since it started, is to try to contribute to the trail construction and maintenance. And so on that basis, I would say, we're a stakeholder. We are contributing to these trail networks. I think we have a right to be there, but we have a responsibility to be there in cooperation and in sharing with other trail users. And the thing I always try to tell people is, show up at the trailhead with a smile. Say hi to other trail users. Everyone is there to get their healing from the trail and their connection to the land. Right. We don't need a disparity mindset where, like, this is mine, and if you're enjoying the trail, it detracts from me. Especially this day and age, we gotta recognize other humans and other trail users and really do our best to show up and create a better community on the trails for everyone.
Right. And the same could be said too, and we won't get too much into this because they're not here to talk about themselves, but even the motorized community has done a lot in the National Forest to create trails and put up signage, and they contribute also. So in the National Forest specifically, not so much in city and county parks they're allowed, but in the National Forest there's a lot of motorized use, and those groups also contribute a lot to helping build those trails and maintain them for their uses out there.
Oh yeah, and if I may, I am a lifetime member of the Colorado Motorcycle Trail Riders Association, CMTRA. Since the inception of Medicine Wheel, our two groups have worked together really closely. Since before the invention of mountain bikes, the CMTRA in this community was maintaining trails up in Jones Park, which the property that is now county. Captain Jack's was a motorized trail long before mountain bikes were invented. My observation and experience is the motorized trail users, while the vehicles themselves are heavy and can have an impact on the trail, and the trail need different design considerations and maintenance needs, that user group is extremely responsible. They pay every year, if you want to ride on trails, you have to get an OHV sticker. That sticker money goes in towards funding a maintenance crew, and that group is very active in supporting good trail maintenance. I'm not a giant motorcycle rider, but I appreciate that. I don't think it's my role to tell people how they should recreate and enjoy the trail. And we've had nothing but great cooperation with the CMTRA. So shout out to that user group.
And of course, there's the equestrian community, also very responsible. I just ran into some of those, some horses the other day in Cheyenne Mountain State Park, where they're allowed on some of the trails there. Also a great bunch of people, and they're the same way. They are out there with their horses, advocating for trail access and being pretty responsible people. I've never had a really bad experience at all with the equestrian users. So there's all these different people out here that all these trails we build are in some way trying to service as many people, as many interests as possible.
Yeah, I agree totally. Again, since its inception, Medicine Wheel has collaborated with the equestrian groups. We have worked often quite closely with the Friends of the Equestrian Skills Park. We've got connections with various equestrian groups in this region. We partnered together on some advocacy work for Jones Park. I think compared to a lot of places in the country, we've got very good alignment between user groups, and definitely include equestrian users in that grouping.
I completely agree. Let's go take a look at more of this trail.
All right.
So talking to one of the volunteers here, and if you're a frequent listener to the podcast, you're going to recognize his voice. It's Michael Brothers, who's with the
Woodmore Nordic nonprofit that grooms the ski trails up
for cross-country skiing.
Yep.
I knew you were going to get that right better than I would. Michael took me out to do cross-country skiing. I spent most of the time on my butt. But someday...
It was a tough, slippery day.
Yeah, it was a little icy and stuff. In my defense, I'm just clumsy. It doesn't work that well. But you're out here today with Medicine Wheel, working on this new trail in the Forest Lakes subdivision up here. Tell us about how you got involved with Medicine Wheel. You mentioned, as we were talking before we started the recording, that you're a mountain biker besides the other stuff you do. Tell us about how you got involved here with Medicine Wheel, working on this project.
Yeah, so, my background is all cross-country skiing, but one of the fun ways to train for cross-country skiing endurance events is mountain biking. And so I've been a bike racer since college and beyond. On the our Colorado cycling team here in Colorado Springs. And then I've met Cory through Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance, same way I met you.
Right.
And so as he learned that I was a mountain biker, in addition to a cross-country skier, he kind of has pulled me into the Medicine Wheel various projects. This one specifically, though, when they got the approval for it, he knew that I had mountain biked a bunch up here in Monument, living here. And so I got to tag along with him and Harry when they were first designing this trail. And I mean, it's so awesome to have more trails, obviously, in the Monument region. And I enjoyed that experience enough that I've gotten more involved and in fact moved even closer to the trail system so that I can enjoy the trails, not only taking care of them but also riding them. So,
and you live in this neighborhood, right? You live in this development, so this is kind of close to home for you. So there's a connection there. Had you done much trail building before you got hooked up with Medicine Wheel and learned and kind of started working on this trail?
Just a little bit. When I was coaching the local high school mountain biking team, they do trail dig days, volunteer efforts. Like there's a competition among all the high school teams, as a way to kind of again pay back for the trails you're riding. And so I'd done a little bit, but not to the extent that I have been able to start doing with Cory. And then I'll probably be doing much more as the future as we continue with this.
So we're on this section of trail that Medicine Wheel is building. It's right 20 feet away from the county trail, but there's has a feature here that we're looking at that's obviously more suited for mountain biking. What is this feature that you have that was built in here?
So this is just kind of a rock ridge or rock line that they put in. It's kind of elevated, which helps with the erosion, because I think you can kind of see that there's a creek.
That a creek runs through.
When there's
here?
high water, a lot of this area gets wet, and in fact that the county trail is almost unrideable. You'll leave big ruts in it. You'll be damaging the trail. So this feature makes it a little bit more interesting, more fun for riding, but it also is just more sustainable.
Right. So it's got a lot of big rocks in it and stuff. So it's kind of just more of a fun way just to take your mountain bike on something that's more than just a boring flat.
Yeah.
I mean, the hikers love the boring flat trails, but the cyclists want something a little more challenging.
Some of them do. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely more challenging to ride up, and then it's a lot of fun coming down.
Cool.
take advantage of that full suspension, those people that have a full suspension mountain bike and, can a bike that's appropriate to eat up all the bumps and rocks.
I would probably need a full suspension ambulance ride out of here if I tried this. So this is an example. Cory and I were talking earlier about sometimes, you build multi-use trails. That's the easiest way. It's the most cost-effective way. But sometimes you kind of split off to give people different experiences. So that's kind of what this is like here. The hiking trail is right there, and of course mountain bikers can use it, but this is more geared towards mountain biking, give them a completely different experience for probably about 40 feet.
Yeah, so a lot of the mountain biking trails you'll find in Colorado, they'll have spots where it splits, and there's a blue line, there's a black line, and then there's a double black line, so it's kind of choose your adventure, and if you aren't feeling confident that day or you're just getting into biking, you're going to stick to the easier line, but as you are looking for more of a challenge, you can kind of have these other options to try. And here's an example, because you can get here. If it's too much for you, it pops right back out on the trail. So it's an easy split to kind of build some experience without committing yourself to, 3 miles extra hard trail that you don't want to walk the whole time.
So this trail kind of touches the county trail, comes across, then goes across the county trail, where of course you could either stay on that or make the left turn or the right turn and stay on the county trail. It's a little wider and more groomed and stuff like that.
Yep, and as you probably saw up there, as you go along the Medicine Wheel Trail, there's another split where you can either do the longer, easier line, or you can kind of do a little roller that's maybe a little bit more challenging. So just lots of different examples that allow you to build your skill set, as a mountain biker.
Awesome. Well, great, Michael. Thanks, and thanks for being out here.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
So we're at this big, huge boulder on the trail. We're working our way back because it's lunchtime for the people who are working here. And you were just pointing out that you got this big rock you went around. Then you got this huge flat rock. You drug that rock up here to build a kind of like this little jump for the bikes?
Almost. The rock was in the area, and actually, the big rock we're standing next to is actually hard to see because we're in an area with some really thick scrub oak. But while we were scouting out, we realized this was we call it a control feature, a positive control feature, something we wanted the trail to visit. So as we were scoping it out, we found the nice big flat rock and thought, wow, that would be a perfect addition to the trail. We were up here with our mini excavator when we were constructing some of this, and with volunteers, we were able to place the rock in a really nice spot. So you come around this corner, it's interesting to go around the rock. You can either take the easy line that goes next to the flat rock, or you have an opportunity to catch a little bit of air as you jump off of it.
Just jump off of there. So the idea that big rock kind of, when you put a turn in here, kind of slows people down a little bit. Is that kind of, it's like when they build roundabouts on roads or they build curves in roads, kind of slow people down maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and even if as we walk uphill, you'll see, so that we've embedded some rocks into the tread. So it's not a high-speed feature, but it is interesting. And yeah, you make this turn around the rock, and you're set up just right. You've got enough speed so you can catch air if you want to drop off. It's not like a big gap jump, but it is, an interesting air feature that you can navigate, while still keeping it safe for other users.
And what's the rule of thumb for when you're building stuff with rocks? If you can pick it up?
Yeah, generally we don't work with rocks that can be lifted by 2 people or 1 person. When we work with rocks, it's got to be a rock that needs 3 people to move, so that once you get it into the tread, it's not someone can't come along and kick it out, or it doesn't work its way out from use.
And more erosion proof too, if it's a big honking rock that's in there. I just remember when I was taking crew leader training, the rule was if you can pick it up by yourself, it's too small.
Yep.
I'm a pretty strong guy. I could pick up a pretty big rock, but it was still too small.
Yeah, especially you got to consider the uses. If you're building for motorized or equestrian use, you need really sturdy rocks, and something that could be lifted by 2 people is just too small.
Cool. Thanks. So, Cory, we just had a little break. Your crew and you had lunch because you're working out here all day. You're out here till about 2 o'clock this afternoon, I think you told me.
Yeah. So shout out to Picnic Basket and Buffalo Gals for a really yummy lunch. Our crew's energized. Yeah,
they look like they were definitely enjoying chowing down on some sandwiches over there, so having a good time. And a great bunch of people. I knew some of them already, so it was good to meet up with some people I haven't seen in a while. So it was a good time just sitting there chatting with your crew. We noted that this trail is on Cotrex, is listed as Forest Lakes Trail number 7 or Forest Lakes number 7 Trail, something along those lines.
Yep.
You can find this on here. We are at the opposite end now from where we were working. You're working the north end of it. We're down on the south end where this has been done.
That's right.
Beautiful views from up here, down a valley, just a really pretty area. But you're telling us that you have some plans for what you want to do at this part of the trail.
Yeah, so we're right near the southern end of the Forest Lakes number 7 trail, and I think the cul-de-sac it's off. Was it Forest Flash?
Forest Flash Court, I believe
Forest
it was.
Flash Court. Anyway, so this is the southern terminus of our trail, and we just walked up 2 bank turns, and there's a little rock riding feature, and we're kind of standing at the corner. If you go like right here, you can see over here there's a Forest Service fence. Mm-hmm. So this is where we start to turn north.
I see the little yellow boundary sign over there.
Yep, there's the boundary sign. So we're on a little bit of a plateau, and we're overlooking South Beaver Creek. It's a nice, gorgeous fall day, so we've got a little patch of aspens up there. And it's a nice little flat spot that we immediately knew was going to be quite popular with the neighbors here. And so this is a place where we are going to install a bench, a place for people to stop and just have a moment to, stop and reflect. We're working with an Eagle Scout to install a bench here. And we're also going to put a memorial plaque here for Ryan Nochi. Is a mountain biker who passed away a few years ago, and his family made a donation to Medicine Wheel that allowed us to buy our trail construction machine. We call it the Big Pony trail building machine. It's a Bobcat E20, and it's named Big Pony after Ryan. That was his racing name. Oh. And so, the agreement we made with his family was we would build a lot of trails that are open to the public, and especially to encourage young people to get into mountain biking. And we want to have a little spot where we can honor Ryan. So I think we're going to have a bench here, a plaque, and probably a fix-it stand so you can, pump up your tires and repair your bike if needed. But just a spot to stop and kind of take a look around. It's kind of a really nice viewpoint here in the Forest Lakes neighborhood.
I'll tell you, the view here is gorgeous. This valley down below is here. It's all privately owned, so don't go wandering off down in there. But the valley down in there is gorgeous. Right now, with the scrub oaks just turning, it's a few days into fall when the scrub oak actually is pretty before it turns ugly brown. But it's a beautiful view, and I imagine on a nice summer day, this is probably really, really gorgeous through here.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I'm glad you mentioned, so there is some private property here, and we may even have some interpretive signage when we're finished, because this is mapped habitat for the Preble's mouse. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that people don't wander off trail and get into the sort of the creek area down below. So it's real nice to look at, but we'll definitely encourage people to not travel down there. But we've got a nice trail for them to take advantage of most of the neighborhood around here. Some
things are better viewed from up above than down close in, and this would be one of those places, I think.
Yeah.
Really cool. Well, Cory, thank you so much for inviting me up here on the day when you guys are doing some really great work building this trail, working with so many different groups, the Metro District, the county, the Forest Service, working with everybody here. You mentioned while we were having lunch, Friends of Monument Preserve are also
they've been a great partner.
They've been a partner. They have some land they take care of some land just north of here, just probably a stone's throw away from here. So they're obviously connected to this piece here. So anyway, thanks for having me out. Good work. I love seeing new trails. I get tired of going to the old trails, so anytime I get to see a new trail, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, it's a big pleasure, and glad to be out hiking with Hiking Bob.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. Cory, remind everybody where they can find you, your website.
It's www.medwheel.org.
And from there, you can find all your social media and sign up for your newsletter and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah, and check out the projects page. We've got an interactive map with projects all over the region.
There you go. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.